How do you feel being interviewed in your own studio?
Dude, I swear, every time someone asks to interview me, it always ends up being in my studio.
That sucks, right? It's like people are not organized and sorted. It's like, fuck, you guys must pay for my space. This is rubbish.
That's okay. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Are you happy?
Sometimes.
So I met you officially yesterday, and I was already annoyed because I wish there were cameras for us because the conversations were already juicy and going. But we're here now, and I appreciate you making time for me. I've met a lot of people, and I realize time is a really precious commodity. So I understand you seeing me is not like anything I take lightly. Joshua, thank you so much, bro.
It's a pleasure.
How's life as like the only podcaster in Cape Town? You've got like a monopoly in Cape Town, in the West, the independent state of the Western Cape.
Well, I'm definitely not the only podcaster, and I'm not the biggest, but it does
in the Cape.
No, like I said, there is that podcast True Crime South Africa, who's doing amazing stuff, and they're pretty big.
They're bigger than you on Spotify. You're way bigger than them on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Yeah.
Don't be humble. Don't do that.
It's so funny. It's because I don't feel like we were saying yesterday. Sometimes it just feels like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that a lot of the time, especially at the moment.
Yeah.
I like go to bed at night and I'm just like, what am I doing? Is this worth it? Like, I don't know. Because I do everything alone. And while we do well, like I do, get decent numbers and everything. It's very up and down because it all falls on me. So it takes a long time to put stuff out, and sometimes I miss a week, and that consistency is key,
100%.
If you're not consistent, people forget about you very quickly.
Yeah. So this is kind of you saying, guys in Cape Town, if you're talented, hit me up.
Basically, yeah. I mean,
are you ready to build a team?
Dude, I would love to, yeah.
What do you need?
I need editors. I need production. I need people to find guests, because at the moment I find guests, which takes a long time to do. A lot of the guests I speak to aren't usually, they're the kind of people you wouldn't see on a podcast generally, right? So I've spoke to gangsters. I've spoke to people that the founder of the Satanic Church in South Africa. I've spoken to people that were brought up in cults in South Africa. If people knew there were cults, I don't know. But there are cults in South Africa. So it takes a long time to find these people, and when you do, often they don't know really what you do.
Yeah.
Because in America, people are used to this kind of thing. I think maybe even in Joburg, people are kind of waking up to it because the podcasting scene and the scene is quite big there. But in Cape Town, you kind of have to convey why it's a good idea for someone to come on your show. What do they have to gain from it, as well as just sharing something that is interesting for people to watch.
Yeah.
So that's just defining the guests. And then a lot of the time they don't have transport. So I go fetch guests, I do a lot of work in the Cape Flats.
What do you mean by you do a lot of work?
Well, I started off as a documentary photographer.
Okay. So
I did a lot of work there during lockdown. There was a big gang truce in the Cape Flats.
Yeah.
Well, it was like a truce.
In inverted commas.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big story, and it was all over CNN and the New York Times. It was everywhere, the story, because a lot of the gangsters put down their arms and stopped fighting to feed the community because everyone was, going starving, basically. We saw the videos of people rioting, stealing from buses, and it's people were literally starving in the Cape Flats.
Yeah.
So the fact that the gangsters worked together with the pastor to bring food to the community was a big story, and they called me to do some drone work for one of the news things.
Yeah.
And I went in, and I always go into a place and I love connecting with the people there. So it's not just I was there to work. I went there and I met this guy called Uncle Errol.
Yeah.
And he's the glue that holds everyone together. He was what he did was basically, he's been trying to get the gangs to call a truce for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
He lost a son to gang violence, and a lot of people have in the Cape Flats. So we started talking, and he's very to himself. You walk into his house, he's got his family, he's like sitting there always listening to like jazz music or something super loudly. And it like actually got frustrating because we were there like planning stuff, you know, and he would like have the jazz music on super loud to the point where it's like impossible to talk, but he would never turn it down.
Yeah.
So I made connections with him, and that's how I got introduced to other people in the Cape Flats, and through that, bringing people on the podcast to share their story. Yeah, so I mean, that's just the one part of finding guests as well. It's just like communicating, connecting, going to places where generally someone like me as a white guy in South Africa wouldn't go, which I think is also unique to what I do. Is like I just like to go different places, and people always go like, "Are you scared?" This or that. It's like if you go into a place and you're respectful, there's no need to be scared.
Yeah.
Like I've been in very dangerous areas and like alone with gang members in drug dens, and no one's ever harmed me. Okay, I've been robbed a few times.
Wow.
But it's like generally, if you go in with respect and good intentions, people can tell right off the bat.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, I don't go to somewhere just to shoot. Like I go places like a lot before I even pick up the camera.
Yeah.
So there's like that foundation that's being built there. And also, if you know people in the community, it's easier to get to know other people in the community, you know.
Sure.
So like talking about that guy, Uncle Errol, he actually passed away during COVID.
That's sad.
From COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, which was very devastating. We were planning a sorry, I'm kind of on a tangent here. But
no, please feel free.
We were planning to do like a 6-part series on the Cape Flats because he wants to like show the work that everyone's doing there. And I feel like it's an ignored part of South Africa.
It is?
It's very ignored.
Especially by the biggest political parties. It's almost like it doesn't exist.
I mean, the amount of shootings that happen there on a daily basis. Is crazy. And it's kind of just like no one cares.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. Like Uncle Errol always used to say, people don't go into the Cape Flats. Like police don't go into the Cape Flats to stop fights.
Yeah.
They go there to collect the bodies.
Sure.
They don't like, it's barely reported on. So we were planning like this documentary for like a 6-part series on gangs, people affected by gangs, the history behind the Cape Flats, you know, the community and so on and so forth. And unfortunately that never happened. But I mean, when I'm coming back to the podcast, so it's that, and then it's bringing the guests on, and I do so much research because I'm like so OCD about it. Like I feel like if I'm going to speak to someone, I want to know who I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
And
ask relevant questions.
Yeah. Like someone like you're very good at listening and then giving good feedback. And I could tell that straight away from our coffee yesterday. Like you're very on your feet when it comes to speaking. With me, like I'm very in my head and I'm not very articulate. So like
that's debatable.
Well, I failed school. I dropped out of school.
Failing school doesn't mean everything.
I know, but it's like I was always bad at English. I was always bad at math. I was always bad at like orals, school orals. I would never do them. I'd go, like I would either leave school or I would tell the teacher like break time. That's when the orals are happening, during break time.
By yourself?
By myself, yeah. Because I was scared, you know, like.
Sure.
I'm
going to bring you back a little bit. I once heard a story of Popular Mechanics, I think is a magazine it's like a science nerd magazine, which is globally successful. I've never verified it, but apparently the person who founded it used to do everything. Write the articles, do the research, design, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty dope that you can do that. People like Kanye West have been linked to being able to produce and rap and sing, and it's a super skill, but I can imagine it's super draining. And I'm glad that you're open to people coming to help you out. And it's not just for you, it's for all of us. And one of the conversations we'll need to have at some point is the cost of production, because the money we get from a YouTube, Spotify is not enough to even pay us. Even if you're just a host or a guest, it's not enough. So some of the people that are going to want to help must understand that they must be part of a journey. It might need some sacrifice, etc. But hopefully in time, if we're all honest and genuine, we will reap the benefits. So thank you. I do hope you'll at some point take up the documentary. I think it's fundamentally important. I've said before, our biggest politicians turn a blind eye to gang violence at the flats, to taxi violence. It's almost as if there are centers of power in this country. The churches, the traditional groups, leaders, the kings and the chiefs, the drug guys, the taxi guys, and it's almost like the politicians are told, this is not your territory. Carry on with your politics and nonsense, but leave us, otherwise you'll get hurt. Or it's like, we're not really going to make that much money, or it's got nothing to do with our power and our vote, so we don't care. I mean, when you look at the data, if anyone ever takes the time, the number of killings in Cape Town, drug-related or gang-related every week, you compare that to what we call COVID-related deaths, you're almost like, guys, we've been living in a pandemic and no one has done anything. And no one seems to care. And I think at some point, and this helped Gayton McKenzie in his political rise, colored people in this country feel like abandoned kids. And there could be some of that actually makes some of them so angry and violent. Like, a lot of coloreds didn't choose to be here. Could be interracial relationships, rape, etc. And at some point they feel abandoned by the white community. At some point they feel abandoned by the black community. I'm not sure. Sorry to interrupt. There's a phone that's vibrating. I can imagine it's frustrating you.
Oh, no, I don't care.
Oh, I don't know whose phone it is. Sorted. Okay, thank you. I hope you'll do that documentary.
Yeah, me too. It's something that I would love to do. And like bringing it back to the murder statistics.
Yeah.
South Africa, I remember reading about this a while ago, but it was South Africa per 100,000 people has one of the highest murder statistics in the world. And it's because of a very small group of, like a small section of areas.
Yeah.
Right. It's not happening in Camps Bay.
Sure.
It's not really happening in Sandton, I'm assuming.
Sure.
It's happening in places like Manenberg, Hanover Park. What are the ones in
Alex, Deep Sluit,
like
Kwamash, Mlazi, Tanzania, those type of areas.
Khayelitsha, like it's happening.
Nyanga.
It's happening in those areas. You know, like in terms of surface area, it's a very small part of South Africa. But that's where it's happening, you know, and like no one does anything about it.
Rest in peace to Uncle Errol, and I hope not just you, I hope other people are going to put their hands up and try and document these stories, because they have a huge impact on our country and safety.
Yeah. I don't like talking about cancel culture or anything.
Yeah.
But it is, the reason I did step back from it a little bit was because as a white guy, sometimes I feel out of place documenting these stories. And I also do get a bit of flack for documenting some of these stories.
From who?
From the colored community or the African community, you know. But it's a sensitive topic in South Africa.
People that are not doing anything.
But I wouldn't want to say that.
No,
but
I'm saying it.
Yeah.
People that are not doing anything.
Yeah.
Are coming to criticize you for trying to do something.
Yeah. And
it's kind of actually frustrating and annoying. It's like if we were to get a white leader to put their hand up. I know Ian Cameron in the Cape does a lot of patrolling with Action Society in townships. Get a white person to come and be like, I'm going to try and help black African people get some land back. It's like, but who are you? You're like, well, I'm a person trying to help, because clearly no one else seems to care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, cancel culture.
No. Once again,
taking a step back.
I understand where it comes from, but I think you have to look at things by case basis.
Yeah.
And with me, I'm honestly giving a platform for people to tell a story, you know. Once like we were speaking before, there isn't a huge monetary gain by doing this unless you have like mass responses and stuff, you know.
Of which for some of the content we do that you do, I don't think sponsors will want to be.
No, that's the thing.
It's
you choose a harder path than a lot of other people, because you can go with soft topics, right? You could talk about like which celebrity like had a wardrobe malfunction at this year's Oscars, and that will do well, you know. But you'll monetize that a lot better. But it's like, do you want to focus on stuff that you're passionate about? Or do you want to make money? Because it's very hard to do both.
Yeah. And we spoke about this yesterday, where you were saying if you wanted to make money, you wouldn't be here. You'd be doing something else.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I spend pretty much every bit of money that I've ever made has gone straight back into the show. You know, I try to pay people where I can, guests, because a lot of the guests that I interview, once, like I said, come from, you know, not so privileged backgrounds.
Sure.
Transport gear, it all gets funneled back in. So it's like a lot of people say like, this video got 1 million views. how much money did you make from
Yeah.
that? I'm like, I made nothing.
Sure.
I made nothing. I made money, but it's gone back out, you know?
And I think this is also
anyway.
going to be a call to government, I think. And maybe it's going to be work that I'm going to need to do where we do have budgets. The arts, Department of Arts, Culture, Sports, there are there are people, social development, I think, that have budgets to fix certain spaces. And some of the work you're doing is almost like social work. Someone needs to somewhere, because in some of the work that you do, I can imagine there's a lot of healing. And you are helping lower crime in spaces, get healing, which is a form of therapy. And there are people that are safer today that have a better life because of the work you're doing. Someone somewhere needs to, we're not asking for money. Don't really care about money. We're asking for resources. Don't give us money. Like, give us equipment. Give us a team. Like, there are kids that graduate and they don't know where to go. Like, let them come intern with us, but pay them, because we can't. Don't give us money. Just help us. Like studio, we shoot at our homes. People don't even know that.
This was literally my bedroom.
Yeah.
I grew up here in this bedroom. I'm an ex-addict. Not an ex-addict, I'm a recovering addict.
Yeah.
And like literally, you have no idea the history of this bedroom right now that we're sitting in.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff that went on here.
I can't wait to unpack all of that. I know this is our first engagement, at least on camera. And I know a lot of people, when they watch this engagement, are going to expect me to ask a lot of questions about things you've raised. Recovering addict but I know we're not going to have enough time, and I'm going to apologize for that. But
no, that's fine.
In time, we will.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? I know you're relatively young. Where did you grow up? And can you please touch on why you think you struggled at school?
Yeah, so I'm 26 and I was born in Zimbabwe, in Harare.
You're a foreigner. Go back to your country.
I know.
Go back to your country.
I know. There's certain times in this country where I'm like, you know, what's weird is I find if you say you're a foreigner and you're white, no one gives a shit.
Yeah? No one.
No one gives a shit.
Those are the dynamics of this country, boy.
Yeah. So it's like I can say I'm from Zimbabwe, but I know people that have lied about where they're from, right? To this day, they've lived in South Africa for 20, 30 years, and they will never tell people where they come from.
Yeah.
They speak the South African languages. They'll never tell people where they come from.
Sure.
But as a white guy, I can say I'm from Zimbabwe and no one does anything.
Yeah. It's a complicated conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Your parents are Zimbabwean?
Yeah. So, my family kind of from all over the place in a way. But they moved here when I was 7.
Okay.
Because we all know what happened in Zimbabwe. Like, it's just fallen apart, you know.
Please just say it, because there might be some ignorant young kids who don't watch the news.
Mugabe stayed in for way longer than he should have.
Yeah.
And he basically pillaged the whole of Zimbabwe and took what he wanted for as long as he wanted. I'm not very politically minded. I don't know too much about it. But
there were land grabs of white landowners in Zim.
Yeah, there was a lot of bad stuff that was going on there. And we just had to, my parents obviously just had to get out.
Yeah.
And when I was 7, I went into like grade 1 when I came to Cape Town. And I've like always been a bit of a weird kid, you know. I think a lot of people are weird, but like I think I'm pretty freaking weird. Like, you know, you were asking me yesterday, like we were talking about like, do you know yourself? And I was like, I don't even know myself. Like that's how weird I am. It's just so unpredictable, you know.
and constantly changing is the other thing you
constantly,
said.
Yeah. So it's like, so we moved here, went through school, and I was like the worst student ever.
Why?
Because I just wasn't built for school. I wasn't interested in anything the teachers had to say, and I wasn't capable of really grasping what they were trying to teach me, because just when you're not interested, you're not going to learn, and I just was not interested. But I tried. I stayed in school till grade 10.
Well done, boy. You held on for as long as you could.
Know. But this is the thing as well. Like, it just shows you, even with a good upbringing, and being in a good school, like I still couldn't finish it. Yeah. You know, and I found drugs as well.
The little bit of time I've spent with you
kind of derailed everything.
The little bit of time I've spent with you seem to think a lot, focus on a lot of things. You have a lot of ideas. would you have been diagnosed as maybe ADHD, you think, back in the day?
Oh,
and
yeah.
You struggled to sit in a class and just concentrate?
Oh, yeah, no, I was on medication and stuff as well.
Okay.
Which I was always coming on and off of.
Yeah.
Because
What meds were they?
Ritalin.
Ritalin.
Yeah. But I whatever I did at school, I used to counteract whatever the medication was doing. So
The therapist started you with the drugs, boy.
Bro,
I blame them.
Before the hard drugs, I was like...
They started you on the drugs.
I was a sugar addict. Icing sugar.
Yeah?
So I would take icing sugar out of the bag, right?
Yes.
And I would pour it into a riding bottle, for cyclists.
Okay.
And I'd mix that with water and I'd shake it up. And that's what I would drink at school.
Hectic.
I was a sugar addict, bro. And I mean, at school, I used to literally, I used to bunk. I can't even tell you. We had a sick bay at school where if you were sick, you go lie down.
Yeah.
I used to go in there, lock the door, and I would just lie in there. There was a drama department at our school. So it's they had a coffin as a prop. And
Wow.
I used to go and lie in the coffin. There was a pillow in there. And I used to go lie in the coffin during classes so I could no one could find me. I used to just leave school. I used to walk out.
That's hectic.
I used to do drugs at school, but serious drugs at school. I was just a nightmare kid.
Looking back, do you remember what you were interested in, number one? And number two, what do you think is the solution for kids that are like you today? Because a lot of kids are in school and they hate it.
So, I think about that quite a lot. What is the alternative?
Yeah.
And for me, the school's a great thing, right? Because it gives you time to learn and develop in a safe space.
Okay.
Because if I was I forgot the first half of that question.
The first bit was, do you remember if there's anything you were interested in?
Oh yeah,
outside of school.
Yeah, I'll get to that after this. But
Okay.
That is a big thing, is what you're interested in, actually. Yeah. With me, I struggled at school because I just wasn't interested in anything. But I've always been interested in video and photography.
Yeah.
I've always done that, right? So I think a lot of kids have no choice really but to stick it out at school because they don't have that passion or something that they've worked on for so long that I was good enough to leave and still go to college.
Yeah.
Because they let me in on my portfolio.
That's nice.
It was really nice.
That's
yeah.
nice. It can't just be about marks. It's show us something you can do.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing, and it's not just for kids trying to find another way out of school, the biggest thing for depression, the biggest thing for finding a reason to live is finding something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
Because there was a point where I was just I'm not good at anything. I'm never going to be anything. I'm 16 years old. I've left school. I'm a drug addict. And the only thing that got me out of all of that was I've got a purpose. Yeah. I want to do something with my life. And I want to be able to create something positive before I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, that's what got me out of everything. That's why I went to rehab. I went to rehab for 6 months.
Okay.
The second time round when I was 21 or 22. And the only reason I stuck through everything and got sober, besides for obviously my family was suffering.
Yeah.
That's a big thing with me as well. I always talk about because I'm the one that just went through it. It was easy for me.
Yeah.
But they had to watch it with a sober mind and actually see what I was going through.
Sure.
But if I had to give advice, it's just find something you're passionate about for kids because that will save you. If you're in a bad place,
yeah.
If you have something you're passionate about, there's a reason to wake up tomorrow, and get up and go and do that thing that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And if you can turn that into your career, that's even better.
I'm just thinking for parents that constantly are forcing kids that are failing, bunking, you have to take some time and try and find another way because we're really blessed that you're here now and you're doing amazing work, but we've lost a lot of kids who are frustrated and their parents refuse to listen. Some even beat them up because they think this child is just acting out and just seeking attention. But it's your child is maybe different or is just not interested in this. And ultimately, as a parent, we all want our kids to be happy, to have some level of peace and to be able to sustain themselves. And school cannot be the only way. It's almost like if we were all forced to play rugby. And if you're not 2 meters tall and 100 kgs, you're going to feel like a loser and be like, I'm short and scrawny. I hate being here. And you're like, no, but everyone has to play rugby. It's the only way to earn a living. You're like, this cannot be the only way. So I hope in time we can speak more about that, because I think your story becomes a powerful story for kids like you, for kids that may not be like you, but just have different types of interests. And are like, I can identify with this. Kids that maybe even do well at school, but they bunk. They don't want to be there. Or they're like, I'm doing well, but I'd rather be doing something else, man. And I want people to understand and support me. And a lot of these kids, they don't have supportive parents.
That's the big thing, yeah.
And that becomes tough. And some of them then end up going to join gangs.
That's the biggest thing is, for me, like I always speak about the role my parents played, because they were very supportive of me throughout everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
And I always think, what happens if I grew up in a different circumstance, or if I had different parents that weren't so persistent, but like, or loving? Because I wouldn't be here 100%. I would either be still using drugs or I'd be dead.
Sure.
Because I was on the verge of it. I mean, I was very, very sick. And it's, as a parent, to see your kid go through that, there's no, like, I can't even imagine what it was like, because literally every time I left the house, my parents didn't know if I was going to live or die, because I was doing dangerous things. I had several very bad car accidents. Like, I mean, I would leave the house at 4 a.m, you know, you're living with your parents. There's like no respect there at all. It's just like you're running the show, doing what you want. And I think a lot of people also ask me, like, how did they let you get away with that for so long? They just didn't know what to do. You know, they loved me. They love me so freaking much that they just couldn't let it go. They couldn't just say, get out of our house, go do your own thing. And I think they were close to doing that. But when I look
shout out to your parents, bro.
No, literally, dude.
Shout out to your parents, honestly, for real.
Like, I've considered moving away for work. Like, I've considered, but I don't want to leave them. And it's something that's been on my mind for so long. Well, especially like this past few months. I don't know why, but I've been thinking about it so much. It's like the time we have with people like our parents is just not enough. It's like, because when you're growing up, you don't really appreciate it. Well, I didn't appreciate it. It's like, you just think they're always going to be there.
You take them for granted.
You take them for granted. And then just recently, I'm like, my parents are 62. I'm 26. It's like, realistically, there's not that much time there, you know? And I just don't know what I would do without them. It's like, I go to bed at night thinking about this lately. I'm like, I want to move because it's better for work. But at the same time, I'm not willing to like waste my time not waste my time, but like, I'm not willing to sacrifice this for work.
Because like, this is more important.
This is more important.
I don't know how long these guys will be here.
Dude, that's all I care about. Honestly, like, I care about providing for my family. Like, if I have kids, that's all I care about. I know I can support myself. If I wanted to, like, because I want kids, right? But the biggest thing I'm scared of is having kids and not being able to provide for them. Like, I was provided for, you know? That's like my biggest fear, is having kids and not being able to give them what they need, right?
Jeez, that's deep, bro.
Dude, it's like, I don't know why the past few weeks...
Why are you making me emotional? This guy, stop it.
But it's been on my mind so much, and I'm just like, dude, it's so important. Time is so important. I don't know why it's been on my mind so much. Just that, like, this will come to an end.
I hate you so much right now.
Yeah.
Do you think your experience with drugs, the life you are living, has helped you be fearless in spaces that other people would never venture into? What do you think is the reason you've been able to get into spaces that some of the most gangster guys lift weights, are scared? When you say Cape Flats, they get petrified. Why do you think you weren't as scared as other people? I know you spoke about just respect other people, but that normally comes with venturing into spaces.
Yeah, I think it's because, in a way, like, I know I come from a very different background to a lot of these guys, but I've been through a lot of the same things, I think.
Okay.
I wouldn't say the exact same thing.
Sure, but you identify.
But I identify with a lot of the same things, right? So mental illness, a lot of especially in the gangs, right? A lot of these guys come from maybe their parents used drugs while they were, born, giving birth, or maybe the kids, I just identify with like the rebellious side as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the gangsters obviously use drugs and suffer from addiction, which I obviously suffer from as well. I don't know. I just connect with these guys. I don't know what it is, but like if you see the episodes I've had with gangsters on my podcast, it's when I'm like most excited for some reason. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people ask me that question. It's like, are you scared? Why aren't you scared? Like, I don't know. I just go in. Like I told you yesterday, again, I said to you yesterday that I always find the best things in people, and often that can not be so good for me, basically. But I often look for the best in people, and I see the best in people. And I think people can see that in me when I'm going there, because I'm walking in with a lot of equipment. I've walked into several times. I've walked into Manenberg, I've walked into the Cape Flats, I've walked into drug dens in Woodstock with 100,000 Rand, 200,000 Rand worth of equipment. And by myself, no one's ever touched me. No one's ever stolen. I've been robbed before, but it was like very small.
In those spaces.
Yeah. I got robbed twice in one day once.
Jeez.
By the same person.
By the same person?
It's a story, bro. It's a crazy one. I don't know if you want to hear it, but it's wild.
Please hit us with that story quickly, please.
Okay, so there's a drug den in Woodstock.
Okay.
It's a very well-known one. And I used to go there.
By well-known, it means even the police and politicians know about it.
Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows about it by Gympie Street.
Okay.
And I used to go there a lot. And I built relationships with a lot of the people living there. I went there first when I was 16 years old. I went into there. And I kept going back. And eventually I started like taking my camera, and we would take photos, and we would do like short documentaries. And there was this lady that I became very close with, who was like the leader in a way. She ran the place. And so like I kept going back to her. And the one day I went there to film a video, and she said, we're going to go down the road to another settlement. There's some guys that you should speak to there. And I said, okay, cool. And we went there. Basically, long story short, some guy stole my phone. And
stole it how? Like he mugged you?
Yeah, so he walked up to me. There was like a whole bunch of guys around me, right? And this guy walked up to me and said, you must be careful in this area because a lot of people are going to try and rob you.
Yeah.
And I said, I know the area. And he said, but if they try to rob you, this is how they're going to do it. And he grabbed my leg and he started kneeing me in the leg.
Jeez.
And what I didn't realize, that was a distraction so he could pickpocket me. I was very young though.
I've had that. When I got to Joburg, I had that.
Yeah.
We call it 2 fingers.
It's very common, I think it's a common way of doing it. But so he robbed me and I didn't realize. And this lady that I was with on our way out when we were leaving said, where's your phone? And I said,
jeez,
I have no idea where my phone is. And she just went on a rampage, like screaming at these guys, trying to defend me, trying to get my phone back.
Yeah.
And this went on for like half an hour. And eventually I was just like, I'm leaving. Like, it's not worth all of this. She was crying and screaming. Anyway, so I go home, and this is how ignorant I was and how do you say it? How gullible.
Yeah.
So I went home, 12 o'clock at night. She calls me.
Yeah.
And she says, I found the phone. Right?
Okay.
And I say, amazing. Where is it? She's like, it's in Long Street at a club. One of the guys that stole it sold it to a bouncer.
Okay.
I said, okay. So she said, you want to come now? We'll go get it back. And I said, it's like kind of 12 o'clock at night here. Like, I'm like, I was very young. Like, and I was like, okay. I get there to the drug den.
Yeah.
She comes into my car, and then like 2 other people jump in the car as well. A kid and another lady. So it was just all girls, right? And me.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like I thought it was just going to be you, but it's fine. So we start driving to Long Street, and on the way to Long Street, she starts screaming and shouting and like going crazy. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like this whole situation is so weird. And I said to her, like, what is going on? Why are you so upset? Mm-hmm. And she just says, Josh, you have to turn around. You have to go back to Woodstock. You have to go back now. And I was just like, okay. Then on the way home, I was like, why did we have to come back here?
Yeah.
And she like wouldn't tell me. She's just crying and screaming. And she runs out of the car when we get back to Woodstock. goes into the drug den, and comes back out like 5 minutes later. And I said, what was wrong? And she was like, the drugs were in the toilet. So they were hiding drugs in the toilet so that if police come, it's like hidden away. Jeez. And she was scared someone was going to wake up and flush it while they were gone. So anyway, we get back in the car, go to Long Street. She says she needs some money because this guy paid for the phone that was stolen. So she needs to get the phone back.
By buying it.
So I gave her some money.
Of course.
She goes into an abandoned building. I was like, that's not a club. You said it was a bouncer.
Yeah.
It's a Monday as well. There's no clubs open on Monday.
Yeah.
So anyway, she goes into the building, comes back out screaming and crying, saying she got robbed now. Basically.
School of hard knocks, boy. You were learning the hard way.
Dude, she gets back in the car and I'm like consoling her now. I'm like, of course. I'm so sorry. Like, I was just like, this is wild. But at this point, it's like 1:30 in the morning. And I've just been robbed twice by the same person.
When did you figure out that she'd also scammed you?
Pretty much there and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
While you're consoling her.
Yeah. I was just
she
like,
stole my money.
Yeah. I was like, this is fishy as anything, but you learn the hard way. Yeah.
Are you enjoying the work that you're doing now? Do you feel like this is more your purpose and you can do this for a while?
Yeah, I love doing this. I feel like there's like a real future here in the podcast. It is a very competitive space. I think,
you believe so?
Around the world, yeah.
Oh, not here.
Not necessarily in South Africa. I think it's kind of growing here. It's getting competitive. I mean, people like you, people like Mac G, you know.
People like Josh. There's this guy, Josh in Cape Town. It's pretty dope.
But like you guys are doing amazing stuff. And I think what we have here is pretty unique. And I would love to keep doing what I'm doing. Obviously, it's very difficult doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to figure out how to grow it from here.
Why did you go? Sorry. Please finish your point.
I just need to figure out how to grow it so that I can make it sustainable.
Why did you go to America? You know, when you started speaking about your American trip, I picked up on your surname Rubin, and I was telling you earlier, Rick Rubin is a huge hip hop figure because Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons set up Def Jam as infrastructure. So before hip hop got commercial, Def Jam came and almost like what we have. I don't know if you follow rugby in South Africa. We've got Craven Week and Gran Homo Week and all these structures. So our rugby is formalized. What we're doing now is still very clumsy. This is like the beginning of hip hop. And I wonder if in time, like you'll become like the Josh Rubin, like the Rick Rubin, but like the Josh Rubin of podcasting in SA, which I think would be really dope. What was your American trip about?
So I wanted to just go see a different part of the world.
Yeah.
And try do some podcasts there.
Okay.
So it was like a work trip. Okay. I have family in America though, so that's where I stayed. I was going to go to the UK, but the traveling would have been insane.
Yeah.
So I just didn't end up doing that, and it was super expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up going to America, which was just equally expensive because I had to rent cars and stuff. Like I had a free accommodation, but it was such a learning process because the guys that I was talking to were like very well known as well. Whereas in South Africa, the people I speak to generally are pretty unknown.
Yeah.
So the first week I was there, I had to rent a car, and like I've never driven on the other side of the road. So it was like that whole process of like learning. And then I had to drive like, I think within the first week, I drove probably 1,000 kilometers.
That's a lot.
And I was traveling with all my equipment. So like I would set up a whole studio everywhere I went.
From scratch?
From scratch, yeah.
That's crazy.
I had to do the like lighting, the sound, like I had to test everything, make sure it was like all perfect.
Yeah.
And then obviously the research, I was watching documentaries because a lot of the people that I was talking to had documentaries made about them.
Yeah.
The one guy was on Joe Rogan. Like it was like these guys, crazy. They're like with like serious guests, you know?
You're like one step away from Joe Rogan. That's proper.
There were like some amazing guests, and there were some wild ones as well. I mean, the one was he was a hitman for the mafia. His boss was like the most legendary hitman, and like he was one of the most feared hitmen in the New York City mafia.
Hectic.
He had killed over 200 people. The others were, I interviewed...
Why are you drawn to these dangerous people?
The other guy was a mortgage fraudster who stole between $25 and $50 million and went to prison for like 12 years or something. The other guy was a drug runner who smuggled weed from Colombia to Florida. Apparently, he says he smuggled 30 million pounds of marijuana.
Jeez.
They're called the Saltwater Cowboys. Um,
Do you get excited like when you meet these people and hear their stories? Or is it just a conversation where you're like, this is what, like...
I enjoy it, yeah. The marijuana, the smuggler was like a crazy one because it was in his house. They were all in their people's houses, but this was like... So this one was in his house and he was smoking weed the whole time, dude. And like, I've never seen someone chain smoke weed like he did.
Jeez.
And obviously, I don't smoke, so it was like hectic. And there was not a single window
Do you know
open.
if you got high?
No, I just got lightheaded. Like the thing, I think I got lightheaded from claustrophobia more than anything because there was no windows open, the aircon was off. Like it was just, it was intense. And we talked for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I interviewed David Packhouse. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Have you ever seen the movie War Dogs?
No.
So War Dogs, it was about these two kids. It was Ephraim DeVroley and David Packhouse in real life. And the one guy, there was a movie made about it called War Dogs.
Yeah.
The guy was, the actor that played them was Miles Teller. You know who Miles Teller is? He was in like the new Top Gun.
I'm sure I know what he looks like.
Do you know Jonah
Hill?
Hill?
If I see his face. I know Jonah Hill very well.
So Jonah Hill played this guy's partner and Miles Teller played this guy. And basically in real life, what they did was they worked with the US government on a contract for $300 million of AK-47 ammunition. These guys were in their like early 20s and they were like doing deals with the Pentagon.
That's insane.
And like running guns and bullets and ammunition. And they got into a huge scandal because you're not allowed to sell Chinese ammunition to the American government.
Okay.
And
that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I might be getting a few facts wrong, but so basically what they did was they secured this massive $300 million deal and they had all this ammunition, but it was from China, which they got messed over by someone else, right? So they didn't realize it was from China. So they repackaged it and everything. And it was like this massive scandal and like, it was a crazy story. It was a really crazy story.
And you met one of the guys.
Yeah, I went
like real guy, not an actor.
The real guy.
That's crazy.
And we are in his apartment in Miami.
Do you think that trip has made you better at what you do? Has it given you perspective? Has it given you ideas on coming back here?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday as well, was the fact that like in America, I felt like I was just interviewing people that have been interviewed by other people.
Yeah.
Whereas in South Africa, a lot of the people that you speak to, a lot of the people that I speak to, it could be their first interview, you know, or their second interview maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've never even done something on camera before. So I feel like it's a unique opportunity to be in South Africa in a way and be at the ground floor because it's fresh.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, even say like Joe Rogan, right? He's the biggest, he's the best. But a lot of the people that he talks to, there's a lot of them online. You know, that guy's done 100 interviews before Joe Rogan.
100%.
So it's not really original in a way. I feel like what we've got going on in South Africa, it's like fresh.
Are you looking to hit the continent or other parts of the world?
I don't really have like a plan. Like honestly, I just want to be able to like do cool work and make a living from it.
I hear you.
Like I don't plan on being Joe Rogan. I don't plan, like that's not my goal. Like I actually think I would hate it. Like it must be hard to be Joe Rogan.
I can imagine.
You know what I mean? Like it must be hard to be those guys. But I would love to do something that people enjoy, take something out of. And I think like you were saying earlier, like when I speak to gangsters, it's quite interesting. A lot of the viewership comes from the Cape Flats.
That's dope.
Which I think is amazing.
That's really dope.
It's not like, I mean, obviously everyone's seeing it, but it's not like it's just like some rich people sitting in their mansion.
It's not just an exhibition.
Yeah.
It's actually people involved that are engaged.
That's what I'm saying. People that are like know these people that are affected by these things. And they're sitting there listening to it and going like, you know, like I was on the verge of joining a gang, but through Uncle Turner's experience or through Welcome Vitboy's experience, some of the guys that I've spoke to, or Denzel, I can see that obviously it's not the right path, you know. And I think it shows them what their life will be like in 20 years or in 10 years if they don't make a change now.
It's a wake-up call.
And it's like, I go like, literally, like I see so many of the guys from the Cape Flats, like I see them around, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them from working there, and a lot of them I don't know, but they tell me like I'm from the Cape Flats, and I think this kind of work's amazing what you're doing, because there's not really a platform that's sharing those kind of stories from those kind of people. And I think at the end of the day, it does help. It does help.
No, of course it helps. I'm just trying to think of how many stories haven't been told, because whether you like it or not, you're kind of going to have to be the lead guy in speaking to some of these gang guys because you've started. There's an amazing channel called The Agenda Network.
I know it, yeah.
Which is doing amazing work with, I don't know if it's prisoners or ex-cons.
Yeah, a lot of them are, I don't really watch the videos, but I always see them pop up, yeah.
Sure.
And I always wondered who does it.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. And hopefully we'll get to meet the guys behind that. We need to have people speaking about the taxi industry as another space that is kind of really not really known, unknown, mystical for some people, and speak to the guys in there. Speaking to some of the religious leaders and people in this country, because the churches are huge in this country. We've got the ZCC church and I think the Shembe church, which arguably both of them boast about 5 million members each. Those are huge groups of people that you influence. And then the traditional leaders, I don't think have been documented as well, because people know the Zulu king. Some people know one of the Xhosa kings, Dalindyebo. They know the Royal Bafokeng because they're wealthy and have platinum, but people don't really know the kings and the chiefs in this country and what they really do. So I think there's a lot of cool opportunities we're still going to have, and we may not be involved in it, but it's going to be cool seeing some people work on it. I just wanted to say on the part you were saying about people with no media experience, one of my favorite documentaries, if not my favorite, is a documentary called, I don't know if it's Human or Humans. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, please check it out. They've got footage on YouTube. And it's these guys, I think they're French, I think. They've traveled around the world, meeting random people, farmers, prostitutes, ordinary human beings, asking them basic questions, death, love, money, and seeing the way they manage to extract story and emotion from these people that have, I think in some of the spaces they're in, I don't even think people really know technology. People struggling with like water and food and medicine. You're like, that project is crazy. And
it sounds awesome, yeah.
I don't even know if you know the transformational work you're doing. I don't know. And maybe this is what Facebook and Apple are not good examples, but the person who kind of maybe finds gold or diamonds, I don't know if they know what they're doing for the world. I don't know if you know, the gang drug problems in Cape Town are old, bro. You're young. You're like a young kid. You're 26 and you're venturing in spaces that some of the biggest, most influential people have maybe never even thought of documenting the stories. And these are global stories that impact real people's lives. So I think just from my side, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the people there, on behalf of all of us. And I'm inspired by your transformation just as a person. You give other young kids that are on drugs hope.
Thank you.
And I really hope that this is going to be the beginning of a great relationship for me and you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny when you reached out to me, because I had been looking at your stuff already. Like it started popping up on my YouTube, and I was like, damn, this guy would be awesome to work with, you know? And I was like, but I could see you're a solo kind of guy. But I was like, wow, it would be so cool to do something together, because I think, I don't know, it's so rare to find someone where I could just feel like we would have a good connection just from watching you in a way.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you just seem very authentic.
I try.
You can't try. No, I'm joking. I always say that, like I always try, you know, because sometimes you can run away with weird like thoughts or desires or whatever. But I could see just through your content, and I can see how you are in real life. You're very much the same person. There isn't a show being put on there. And that's also, while I don't show everything on camera, there's obviously other sides to me as well. But I think people can sense when you're being you and when you're trying to be something for the cameras.
I look forward to it, bro. Thank you for putting me on Caroline. For people that don't know Caroline, Josh and Caroline
Yeah.
On TikTok as well, because we were looking at Instagram.
We haven't really been recording at the moment. There's
Josh and Caroline is crazy. So I met a celebrity today.
Yeah, Caroline's the real celebrity.
Sorry, if you can just tell us who Caroline is quickly.
So
partner in crime.
Caroline's she's been our family housekeeper since I was a baby, dude. She's been with us like since we moved from Zim.
Yeah.
And we've always made videos together. Like I've been making videos since I was like 10 years old.
It's crazy.
And she's always been in the videos. Like you should see the footage we have together, right? Like it's from me as a little kid, like in school uniform, just like doing stuff in front of the camera, me pranking her pranking me. And like, we've had she's done really well online. Like a lot of people, like if she walks around, you'll see people know her.
Yeah.
Especially in like South Africa, like people know her.
Yeah.
And we've done some amazing work together. I mean, she's helped raise like a lot of money as well for people that I've had on the podcast as well through the platforms that we have together. And she's an amazing person. We've kind of stopped making videos at the moment because there was a few issues that we can't really talk about.
Okay.
But hopefully they will be resolved soon and she'll be able to. I would love her to do like Nando's adverts and stuff. Like, dude, she's like, when I think of South Africa and someone that should be representing South Africa, it's Caroline. She's like the mother that everyone wants. She's always got a smile on her face. Dude, she's been through some horrific stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like she was in a massive car accident where she almost died and her two daughters almost died, and someone did die in the accident. Yeah. Like they were in the back of a bakkie and the thing flipped.
Jeez.
And she broke her neck. If you look at her hand, she's got massive scars all up there, but she had plates in there, plates in her back. Like her kid, you know when you get scars and they start bubbling?
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like,
and they start bubbling.
It's like, you know when you get a scar and like the scar tissue raises.
Jeez.
It's not like a flat scar.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
Like her one daughter's got that all over her body. The other daughter broke her skull. Like she's been through so much, dude, and she just never complains. She just gets on with life, but she knows she has to. She's got daughters to take care of. You know, she's got like work to do, and she does it all with a smile on her face. And that's something that like you don't see very. Well, I actually feel like you see a lot of in South Africa.
Well, for you, because of the spaces you're in, but for ordinary people, they never see stories like that.
You don't, like, the thing in South Africa is people don't have a choice. It's like, you either work or you don't eat.
Yeah.
It's like, the government's not going to help you.
Yeah.
No one's going to help you.
Yeah.
She's been fighting with what is it called when you have a car, the road accident fund.
Sure.
She's been trying to get money from them for like 8 years. Nothing.
That's ridiculous.
Dude, it's crazy. So she just realized, like, obviously we help her, but like if she doesn't get up and you know provide for her kids, no one else is going to. Her husband's not, or her ex-husband's not. You know what I mean? Like she does it. She's like, when I think of South Africa, she is like South African mama.
Yeah.
So like I think she would have a huge amount of potential on like TV or like adverts. So when we get those issues that I was saying earlier resolved, I would love her to go into that space and really kind of make a name for herself.
Josh and Caroline, I hope people will check it out. I'll drop links as well when this video drops. Do you acknowledge that you're currently a leader?
I don't feel like I am because I feel lost. Like, I feel very lost.
What did I read something? I forgot this quote. There was a quote I read the other day, something about leaders. Leaders are, I don't know if it's like the most broken people make the best leaders or something along those lines. When you actually start tracking leaders, you speak about like, I can't speak about religion. People are going to get upset. When you start tracking certain leaders, religious, political, otherwise, and you narrow down on the personality traits, you realize that these guys, these ladies were serious weirdos, outliers. Some, if they were to be diagnosed today, would be diagnosed with some mental illness of sorts, narcissism or delusions of grandeur. And I think you have what it takes.
Thank you.
To become the biggest, baddest leader. And I hope you will own it at some point. And I'm really looking forward to us working together.
Amazing, man. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I do struggle to take compliments because I don't believe it. That's the thing, is like, I feel like I have potential, but at the same time, I feel so lost in terms of like trying to, like I know what I'm doing is good, but I just always second guess everything I do as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like I can't be a leader if I don't even know where I'm going, But I think that is part of, well, no, I'm not even going to get into that, but.
Joshua, thank you much for sitting down with me, and I look forward to hosting you in Joburg at some point. If
That'd
you can
be
come
awesome,
through.
yeah.
And then I'm looking forward to us sitting again
Yeah.
in Cape Town, and where I can, I'm going to try and help you fully monopolize this area and have everyone comes through you. It's like, do you know Josh? I know Josh. I started podcasting because of Josh. I think that would be dope.
Yeah,
I love you, bro.
I would love that. Thank you
I love
so
you, bro.
much.
Thank you.
I love you too, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.